G.I. Joe, G.I. Joe, fighting man from head to toe, on the land, on the sea, in the air.
G.I. Joe attack! Boom, boom! G.I. Joe takes the hill! Bam, bam! Horrific battle!
Terrific equipment to have a battle with. When you get G.I. Joe and the authentic G.I. Joe equipment, you'll have the greatest realism, the greatest fun you ever had in playing soldier. Box after box of authentic uniforms and equipment, so you can change your G.I. Joe soldier into a camouflage Marine ready for battle, a Navy frogman with complete scuba suit and inflatable life raft, an Air Force pilot with high-altitude helmet and air vest. Get G.I. Joe and get G.I. Joe equipment so you can set up exciting battle action whenever you want. Remember, only G.I. Joe is G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe, G.I. Joe, fighting man.
Now a new world of fun with G.I. Joe Army. G.I. Joe's a machine gunner, a rifleman, a scout with telephone. More, he fights on skis. He belongs to the mountain troops. Still more? Okay, this new one comes from the headlines. The Green Beret G.I. Joe, Special Forces uniform, portable transmitter, Special Forces rifle, and you can get a 10-inch bazooka that really works. Authentic? With G.I. Joe, you can almost hear the boom of the big guns. Big guns like the one on the G.I. Joe 5-star Jeep. 4 rockets ready for action. A realistic Army Jeep, battery-operated engine sound, and a working searchlight on the trailer. Action? You've got it with G.I. Joe Army. G.I. Joe is the greatest. Nothing else is G.I. Joe.
Boy, oh boy, it's a Hasbro toy!
Have you heard the big news about G.I. Joe? They've got a U.S. Army 5-star Jeep set. Looks like the real thing. Has 3-speed G.I. engine sound. Battery-operated searchlight. A recoilless rifle that really shoots. Your G.I. Joe rides in it. Fights in it.
I drive a Jeep, and this is the real thing. Just like all the other G.I. Joe equipment. Just like G.I. Joe himself. Most realistic toy soldier a boy ever played with.
G.I. Joe, G.I. Joe, fighting man from head to toe, on the land, on the sea, in the air.
Remember, G.I. Joe is the toy soldier with 21 movable parts. He stands almost a foot tall, and you can get enough G.I. Joe equipment to build any battle action. Go down to your toy store and see what's new for you in G.I. Joe.
Boy, oh boy, it's a Hasbro toy!
G.I. Joe, G.I. Joe, fighting man from head to toe.
Now, a new world of fun with G.I. Joe action soldiers of the world. 6 different fighting men from 6 foreign countries. Australian jungle fighter, Russian infantryman, British commando, Japanese imperial soldier, German infantryman, French underground fighter. The G.I. Joe Combat Series. Realistic in every detail, from the uniforms on their backs to the medals on their chests. Realistic equipment, too. Arisaka rifle, Luger pistol, lapel revolver with shoulder holster, gas mask, Sten gun, Bush machete, Russian machine gun with bipod. Add new realism, new dimension to your play battles. Add new fun to your world of G.I. Joe with the exciting action soldiers of the world.
Boy, oh boy, it's a Hasbro toy!
Have you heard the big news about G.I. Joe? They've got a deep-sea diving suit, just like regulation U.S. Navy. And it actually works in water. Watch it dive to the bottom. Watch the bubbles as you send down air and bring the diver back to the surface. Authentic underwater action with G.I. Joe Deep Sea Diver.
Your toy store has all the uniforms to fit your G.I. Joes, so you can have any battle action. Medics for battle casualties, frogmen, even a ski patrol.
If you haven't started your G.I. Joe collection, everything is new. Machine guns, rifles, radio telephones, tents, everything you need to play G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe, G.I. Joe, fighting man from head to toe, on the land, on the sea, in the air.
Go down to your toy store and see what's new for you in G.I. Joe.
Boy, oh boy, it's a Hasbro toy.
G.I. Joe, fighting man from head to toe, on the land, on the sea, in the air. Look at all that G.I. Joe equipment. Boy, I'm gonna get a tent, a machine gun, 2 machine guns with sandbags and rifles, too. I'll build a combat scene with maybe 4 G.I. Joe soldiers with helmets and .45 caliber pistols. Dad says all the G.I. Joe equipment is authentic. That means just like real. Look at that frogman, a complete scuba suit. And I'll get the life raft and the Navy life jackets. For the pilot, they've got high-altitude helmets and air vests, too. And everything for the Marines is camouflage. And a G.I. Joe footlocker with different compartments so you can keep uniforms and equipment in it. What would I like? Just more G.I. Joes and more G.I. Joe equipment.
G.I. Joe, fighting man from head to toe, on the land, on the sea, in the air.
G.I. Joe is really something to sing about. With all the authentic equipment you can get, you'll play with G.I. Joe year after year. You can start with 1 G.I. Joe soldier. Then, with just a handful of equipment packages, you can set up exciting battle action. The more equipment you get, the larger your battlefield. Keep collecting. Soon you'll get G.I. Joe as a Marine, a sailor, and a pilot, too. It's going to be hard to keep Dad from getting in on the fun. He'll want to set up a whole combat squad. Soon you'll have the biggest, the most exciting G.I. Joe combat action you ever dreamed of. Get in on the fun. Start collecting authentic G.I. Joe equipment. Remember, only G.I. Joe is G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe, fighting.
Now, a new world of fun with G.I. Joe Air Force. Is your G.I. Joe ready for duty aboard a carrier? Does he have the new deck commander set with jumpsuit, signal paddles, and helmet with earphones? Is he equipped with a new firefighter set, special heat suit, hood, accessory belt, and fire extinguisher? Is he ready to go into space with a new G.I. Joe astronaut capsule and spacesuit, silver uniform, space helmet, communications cord? The realistic capsule has simulated retro rockets, sliding canopy, control panel, too. And the capsule floats so recoveries can be made. There's even a phonograph record of an actual flight. G.I. Joe is the greatest. Nothing else is G.I. Joe.
Boy, oh boy, it's a Hasbro toy.
G.I. Joe, fighting man from head.
Now, a new world of fun with G.I. Joe Marines. Just look at this one. Now your G.I. Joe can clear the beach of mines with the new working demolition set, complete with a mine detector that actually lights up when it locates a mine. Comes with power pack, earphones, and mines. And with all the different gear you can get for G.I. Joe, you'll want the official G.I. Joe footlocker. It holds your equipment, keeps your uniforms in order. For exciting action, get the official Let's Go Joe game with a giant battlefield game board, attack and defense master controls, soldiers, missile sights, and ammo dumps. There's a new kind of G.I. Joe excitement with the Let's Go Joe game. G.I. Joe is the greatest. Nothing else is G.I. Joe.
Boy, oh boy, it's a Hasbro toy.
G.I. Joe, fighting man from head to toe, on the land, on the sea, in the air.
Now the whole outdoors can be your G.I. Joe battlefield. On the land, right in your own backyard. On the sea, wherever there's water. You can set up tents on the beach, machine guns in the sand, a communications post in a foxhole. And when you put your frogmen near the water, they'll seem almost alive. To build realistic battle scenes, you can use clumps of grass, twigs and branches, even stone. And with all the authentic G.I. Joe equipment that's available, you'll have a new kind of combat realism when you play with your G.I. Joes outdoors. Start collecting G.I. Joes and G.I. Joe equipment today. And remember, whether you play with G.I. Joe outdoors or indoors, only G.I. Joe is G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe, reporting for duty, sir.
Since the beginning of time, children have always played soldier. With wooden swords, broomstick rifles, with cast lead soldiers, with plastic miniatures. But none of these had the ring of authenticity. None of these gave a boy the feeling that he was playing real soldier. Give a boy an Army field manual, and his fanciful imagination will carve reality out of thin air. To make a boy's dream come true, Hasbro is proud to present G.I. Joe, America's movable fighting man. The most realistic soldier anyone has ever seen. Imagine, G.I. Joe stands almost a foot tall. A soldier big enough to really play with. But look, G.I. Joe doesn't just stand. He kneels. He lifts his arms to fire a rifle. He can charge, or he can sit down and rest. He can throw a grenade or crouch in a foxhole. He can perform every action of a soldier because Hasbro's G.I. Joe has 21 movable parts. His head